Season 6, Episode 1, Joan is Awful. The ending of a Black Mirror episode is undoubtedly the most important part of the episode. It has the ability to save a generally mediocre episode, turning it into one of the more memorable ones. However, when the ending flops, the entire episode tanks as a result, and unfortunately that is the case with Joan is Awful. In this episode, a girl named Joan is having her life turned into a Streamberry TV show. That's weird. Streamberry looks eerily similar to another streaming service. What was it called again? Anyways, everything she does during the day is being recorded through her cell phone and is being shown on TV. However, the events in the TV show are being wildly dramatized and exaggerated with the purpose of putting Joan in a bad light. Because of the TV show, her life gets ruined. Joan gets fired from her job and her boyfriend leaves her. Because of this, she goes on an adventure to stop whoever's making this TV show on her. I think everything about this episode is great until we get to the last couple minutes. I struggled for a while to make any sense of the computer and the different fictive layers. The ending felt so rushed and I wasn't really able to get a grasp on how they worked. Thankfully, Joan and Selma were also not able to understand the different fictive levels, and the CEO Mona didn't even know how the computer worked, which at the time made me feel less bad about not understanding how these things worked. Even after I was able to sort of wrap my head around how the different fictive levels in the computer worked, it didn't really make the ending better for me. I get that breaking the computer is supposed to represent Joan taking her life back, but the ending felt like such a slap in the face because we spend so much time with this Joan just to find out that she's not even the real Joan, and they're all basically living in a simulation. Joan's journey to the end though was very fun to watch. We get some very funny moments sprinkled throughout the episode, such as Joan's reaction to watching the Joan is Awful TV show on Streamberry, as well as her trying to get the show cancelled by combining hot sauce and laxatives so she can take a big fat shit in a church. We also get some crazy lines from Salma Hayek.
I mean, doesn't my asshole have any rights?
Once again, the rest of the episode was good, but the ending ruined it for me. B tier. Season 6, Episode 2, Loch Henry. This episode follows Davis and Pia, a couple who are visiting Davis's mom Janet in his hometown Loch Henry, before moving on to a town further away to make a film on a guy who guards rare eggs against theft. After meeting Davis's childhood friend Stuart, Pia learns about Loch Henry's tragic past involving a man named Ian who tortured and killed people. His crimes were discovered when he accidentally snitched on himself while he was drunk, after seeing the missing persons poster for a couple he had recently killed who were on their honeymoon to Loch Henry. After hearing the story, Pia said that they should scrap the Eggman story and make a film on this instead. Davis was initially reluctant to doing so as the story was personally connected to him and his family, as Ian had shot his dad Kenneth and died due to infections caused by his wound, but eventually he caves in. It's later revealed that Davis's parents were direct accomplices to Ian's killings, after Pia finds a VHS tape with footage of Janet torturing the same couple I had mentioned earlier who were on their honeymoon. Oh my god, she's emoting on top of them. Janet finds out about this and chases Pia outside the house. When Pia tried to cross this river to get away, she accidentally tripped, hit her head on a rock, and died. Before killing herself, Janet leaves behind the truth about the tortures and the murder so Davis can use it for his film, which he ends up winning an award for. I think this episode was moving pretty slowly in the beginning, especially in the middle when they were gathering footage and editing the film, but I'm glad things started picking up towards the end after the car crash. Hey, that editing software looks familiar. I really liked Davis's blank expression while he was sitting in the hotel room after winning his award for his film. He got everything he wanted, but at the cost of him finding out that his parents were serial killers, his girlfriend dying, and Stuart not really caring since all he wanted was for people to start visiting Loch Henry again. But this damn show, was it really necessary to include this part here? Did we really need to see this? And not only that, but they made Bro's mom listen in on it too. I also thought the way Pia died was kind of stupid. It's cool that her death was foreshadowed throughout the episode, but I wish she died in a more interesting way instead of just hitting her head on a rock. Even though there were things I liked about this episode, most notably the last 15 to 20 minutes, with most of it being unmemorable along with my other complaints, I have to give it a C tier. Season 6, Episode 3, Beyond the Sea. This episode is 80 minutes long, but unlike other really long Black Mirror episodes, this one was kind of a slog to get through, but the payoff in the end was definitely worth it. We follow two astronauts, David and Cliff, who are on a two-man space mission, with their real bodies in space and replicas of them on Earth that they can transfer their consciousness to when needed. One day, David's family is attacked by four guys with Greek letters for names. They proceed to murder David's family and destroy his replica because they believe defying nature should have costs, or something stupid like that. And now David's stuck in space and depressed. He's so depressed that he doesn't even shave anymore. To prevent David from potentially harming himself from the isolation, Cliff and his wife Lana agree to let David use his replica, to let David visit Earth 1 hour a week to help him feel less depressed. At first, things are going much better for David, but over time he starts to slowly form a relationship with Lana, which eventually starts getting more intimate as he spends more time with her. However, unlike some characters from other TV shows, Lana quickly puts a stop to it, even though this is something she desperately wants, as Cliff won't be intimate with her. But yeah, now Lana's afraid of David, and after Cliff finds some, spicy drawings of Lana on David's side of the shuttle, Cliff becomes very upset with David. After a few more negative interactions, David proceeds to murder Cliff's family, and now they both have to endure the life of space travel alone together. One thing I really have to appreciate about this episode is Aaron Paul's acting. We already know he's an incredible actor from that one critically acclaimed TV show that he was on, but in this Black Mirror episode, he essentially has to play two different people, which he does very well. I thought the way that David exploited Cliff's lack of intimacy toward Lana and his son Henry was some genius level writing, but slapping Henry was not necessary. I also really like the end where Cliff has to decide if he's going to kill David for murdering his family or sit with each other's company and try to move past all of it. Obviously, Cliff has to choose the latter because the mission can't be complete without two people, but if he wasn't thinking rationally about it, they both would have ended up dying in space. Once again, I do think the pacing is pretty bad, mainly in the middle of the episode after Cliff lets David borrow his replica for the first time. I do also think that the guys who destroyed David's replica had a really dumb reasoning for doing so, and they had to have known that because they literally turned themselves in the next day. I also do think the way David and Cliff talked to each other felt a little off.
I mean, this is quite something.
Maybe it's because they aren't actually that close to each other as I thought they were, or maybe I still have Jesse's character stuck in my head. But even with these complaints, I still like the episode a lot, so I'm giving it an A tier. Season 6, Episode 4, Mazey Day. Ah yes, the Black Mirror episode that everyone seems to have an issue with. This episode, along with the next episode, Demon 79, is where Black Mirror started leaning into supernatural territory, which is one of the reasons that people didn't like this episode, along with its poor writing and pacing. When I first watched this episode, I really didn't hate it that much. I get that if there's a plot twist, it actually needs to make sense in order for the episode to benefit from it, which wasn't really the case for this episode, as there was no real way to predict that Mazey was going to turn into a werewolf, with it seemingly coming out of nowhere, since they didn't even drop a hint at what the plot twist could be during the only point in the episode where they could have.
They found a man in the road.
A man? Who did they hire to clean the road? Was he blind or something? But despite all of that, I still found myself enjoying the episode. So when I went to rewatch this episode, I was hoping to find more reasons to like it. Unfortunately, the opposite happened. I found more reasons to hate the episode, and I started seeing a lot more issues that I must have missed when I watched the episode for the first time, mainly with the last 10 minutes. The pacing becomes very fast after Mazey's transformation. In a matter of 4 minutes, everyone except Bo and Mazey die. Because everything was happening so quickly, everyone's death felt so meaningless, especially characters who had been developed throughout the whole episode, like Hector. Also, Bo shooting Mazey with the gun was probably the most anticlimactic thing ever. Like, were they not able to find a way to make this look more dramatic? And how did Bo and Hector manage to outrun Mazey in the forest? I thought werewolves were supposed to be fast or something. The plot twist also suffered for me. Well, I guess if I just turn my brain off and try not to comprehend the idea of Mazey turning into a werewolf and where it's coming from, then I'm still able to enjoy it. But the problem begins once I start questioning the logic. Similar to Smithereens, there were some nice drone shots for the daytime scenes. Granted, they weren't as many and they didn't look as good as the ones from Smithereens, but it's something. The color grading is also really nice for the day scenes as well. Sadly, even with these positives, they're not enough to outweigh the things I don't like about the episode. I was originally going to put this episode in the C tier because I genuinely don't remember this episode being this bad, but after rewatching, I'm gonna have to put it in the D tier. Season 6, Episode 5, Demon 79. This is the second Black Mirror episode that deals with the supernatural, except this time instead of werewolves, we got demons. This episode is about a girl named Nita who lives a boring life working in retail. One day, she marks a talisman with her blood, which summons a demon named Gap. Gap tells Nita that she needs to kill 3 people over the next 3 days, otherwise a terrible disaster will happen which will end the world. Nita manages to get the first 2 kills but just barely miss the third. The apocalypse collapse happens, everyone dies, and Nita and Gap go into, quote, eternal oblivion together. At least that's the gist of it. Once you start diving further into this episode, a lot of questions start to arise. Mainly, did the world actually end or was it all in Nita's head? While we can't be 100% certain about what happens, my answer to this question is that it was all in Nita's head, and for one reason. The talisman turned into a domino before the end of the third night. If the detectives saw the domino after midnight, I probably would have thought twice about this, but it's clearly shown in the interrogation room that the talisman was a domino before 12. It's also mentioned that Nita's mom spent the better part of her life dealing with mental illnesses, so it's possible that these same mental illnesses were passed on to Nita. And I guess that since Michael Smart's future ended up becoming true in other Black Mirror episodes in season 6, that this would be more proof that everything that happened in Demon 79 was in Nita's head, but I'm not totally convinced that the episodes are connected like that. Huh, he founded a political party called Britannia. I guess that means his fate is sealed.
To kill yourself.
This episode tried to be more comedic at times, which I think worked out for the most part, but considering this episode deals with demons, I wish it was more scarier. And besides this conversation that Michael Smart had with Vicky, I don't feel like it's made very clear how bad of a person he is. You have to go through the future that Gap shows Nita pretty slowly in order to see just how bad things will get once he gets elected. And maybe it's just me. It's very likely that the average viewer was able to watch this once and immediately figure out why Michael Smart is a bad person, but I had to do a lot of research online to figure it out for myself. Also, while parts of this episode were made to be awkward and cringe, such as when Nita and Chris were going toe-to-toe in a fight in the kitchen, I don't think the part where Gap says to Nita,
"You've changed,"
was meant to be intentionally cringe. While I did like Demon 79 more than Mazey Day, there were some things that I didn't really like about it, which is why it'll be going in the B tier. Season 7, Episode 1, Common People. This is probably the most relatable Black Mirror episode ever. Well, of course not the piss drinking, the teeth pulling, and the rectum readjustments, but the things customers are subject to when paying for subscriptions, such as price increases, expensive plans, ad-based plans, and your meaninglessness to that company. Yep, it doesn't matter how loyal of a customer you are, that company does not care about you. And it's a pretty bold move for Netflix to allow this episode to be on their website, because they're definitely guilty of this. Ignoring the fact that there didn't even used to be an ad-based plan for Netflix. The Netflix plan with ads was $6.99 last year, and now it's $7.99. Like, what happened? Well, I know what happened, they want more money, but still. And before I move on, can we quickly talk about Rivermind Lux? Rivermind Lux is a $1,000 a month subscription that pretty much lets rich people get high, as it lets you control your serenity, your pleasure, and your f***ing nonchalance. I wonder which Gen Z internet Netflix recommended to include that last one. But $1,000 a month is diabolical. You can probably get the same thing at a liquor store or a dispensary for a tenth of the price. Not saying that you should do that, but if you're paying $1,000 a month for Rivermind Lux, you're getting scammed. Now, will it ever get to the point where we'll have to start working overtime, degrading ourselves on the internet, and killing our SOs just to afford our monthly subscriptions? No, and if it does, you cancel that subscription right away. I was originally going to say that maybe it wasn't so bad. Amanda got to live for another couple years, which is pretty good considering the doctor said that she was going to be in a coma for the next untold amount of time. But considering what Mike had to go through to keep Amanda alive, that shit was absolutely not worth it. But yeah, I really like this episode. Watching this couple's lives be ruined by a subscription was incredibly sad to watch, especially when Amanda told Mike to kill her in the end. And the fact that Amanda looked like a drug addict by the end of the episode due to her limited accesses to Rivermind Lux enforces what I said earlier about rich people using Rivermind Lux to get high. And the guys who bought the baby crib from Mike who said they were going to set it on fire for a music video was the icing on the cake. Everything that Mike and Amanda worked for literally died and burned away. I'm giving this episode an S tier. Season 7, Episode 2, Bete Noire. This episode feels like Black Mirror used the same formula that they used for Joan is Awful, where the main character spends majority of the episode trying to figure out who/what is behind the conflict presented. However, I feel that the ending falls even flatter and is more unbelievable than the Quamputer in Joan is Awful. I mean, come on, a supercomputer that's able to take you to any universe where whatever you tell it has always been true? This is now the second time that quantum computers are used as a plot device in an episode, which I think is a really dumb way of moving the plot forward. It's starting to become Black Mirror's version of nanotech from Marvel movies. At least in Joan is Awful, the characters admit that they don't actually understand how the computer works. But in Bete Noire, we're put under the impression that Verity knows how the quantum compiler can transport you to another universe, simply because she's always been good with computers.
She has always been good with computers, okay?
Well, there you go guys. Every computer engineer you know has actually been hiding the secret to multiversal travel. I also didn't really like Maria that much, since she was the one who started the rumor about Verity and her teacher.
And there was this rumor about her that she wanked off Mr. Kendrick in the computer room.
I sympathized with her a little bit more once Verity started changing reality to drive her insane, but it still sat in the back of my mind that it was Maria and her friends who bullied Verity in high school. Though I suppose it's possible that Verity manipulated reality so that Maria thinks she started the rumor. Also, throughout the episode, Maria continues to say very bad things about Verity to her coworkers, calling her odd and weird, making it harder for me to like her. Again, the journey to learning how Verity was changing realities was cool and interesting since we were pretty much left in the dark for most of the episode. It wasn't as good as Joan is Awful, but it was still entertaining. But how she managed to grab the cop's gun while she was in the middle of being detained to kill Verity, and then become the Empress of the Universe was just not as satisfying of an ending as I hoped it would be. I mean, it makes sense according to her boyfriend. Maria has always wanted to be top dog with everyone sucking her dick. Well, the dick she imagines she has, I guess. But I'm still having a hard time comprehending how she managed to grab the cop's gun while she was being arrested. This was an okay episode. I like the suspense of not knowing, but I think the ending fell flat. C tier. Season 7, Episode 3, Hotel Reverie. The concept of this episode was just not working for me, or at least the way Black Mirror approached it. In my opinion, taking a movie, recasting a single character, and having the plot play out exactly the same is not a remaster. That is a direct copy. I mean, this is the type shit that Taylor Swift be doing with her Life of a Showgirl vinyl and its 38 different variants. The music on each record is exactly the same, with the only difference being the album cover and the color of the vinyl. While I do think the ending of the movie was good, when movie critics see the rest of the movie, they're probably gonna think it's a shit. They would definitely make comments on how Dr. Palmer looks like she's talking to herself multiple times throughout the movie, and how the pacing of the movie exponentially rises towards the end. But I suppose it could have been worse. Like, imagine if Brandy saw the USB drive and knew what she was getting herself into. We would have gotten the exact same movie with one character replaced, who's saying the exact same lines as the original character did. And I don't care what Hollywood celebrity they decide to put in place of the main character. If that's the only difference between the original and the remaster, I'd rather watch the original. Some of you might be watching this and thinking that I'm getting upset or ranting about the wrong thing and that I'm missing the point of the episode. But if the idea that the episode revolves around is not good to me, I just can't enjoy it. I just really feel like there isn't a reason for this episode to exist. And can we talk about Redream and their production crew? Redream is basically character AI, but you can interact with the characters as if it were real life. So you can already take a guess at what nefarious activities some freaks would be getting up to if they had access to this technology. And for a very high-tech company who I assume are not doing this for the first time, they are extremely unprepared to the point where it nearly killed Brandy. I mean, did they not think it was important to check if Brandy could play the piano, considering that was an important part of the movie? And this programmer guy is actually so annoying to listen to. Like, every time something goes wrong, the excuses he makes sounds like something he pulled out of his ass. But yeah, I just didn't really like this episode that much. I like the ending of the final movie that they were able to make, but not much else besides that. D tier. Season 7, Episode 4, Plaything. If there's anything to take away from this episode, it's that people who say please and thank you to ChatGPT are guaranteed to be spared when AI takes over the world, just like Cameron was. I thought this episode was pretty good for the most part and is more relevant than ever considering how crappily we treat AI. The Throng's idea of how humans have a flawed way of thinking and that the first thing we do to fix conflict is to resort to violence, and how humans would be better if they didn't have the ability to think for themselves was very interesting. Not that I want that to happen because I like being in control of my own mind, but after seeing Cameron kill Lump, I can sort of see where they're coming from. Now, I have not watched Bandersnatch yet because when it was on Netflix, it said that the episode was 5 hours long. I know Black Mirror loves putting out episodes longer than an hour, especially as of recently, but 5 hours is really pushing it. It would take longer to watch this episode than to binge all the Bunny Girl Senpai movies. But I really like this Colin Rittman guy. His way of thinking and how he was talking about and describing the Thronglets game was so unique, dare I say, entrancing. I felt like I was listening to the British version of Moist Critical, and he was totally rizzing up Cameron. I mean, look how infatuated he is by Colin's speech. But yeah, I really liked his bit during the episode, and I want to see more of him. So I might just bite the bullet and dedicate 5 hours of my time one of these days to watching Bandersnatch. One thing I didn't really like about this episode is how much the detective was crashing out on Cameron. Like, I get it, Cameron wasn't getting him the answer he wanted, and he was high-key rage baiting the detective too. And I guess the psychiatrist wasn't helping since she kept deviating the conversation away from the answer they were trying to get. And listen, I've never been to jail or have had to go through police interrogation, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't think it's realistic for the detective to start throwing hands with the prisoner. There was absolutely no reason to be doing that, but I guess that proves the Throng's point on how humans solve conflict. Also, how the hell was Cameron able to afford all of that equipment and the LSD? He was buying game consoles, graphics cards, RAM, and more, and that kind of stuff is not cheap, especially now thanks to AI. There's no way he was still going to work since he was so busy taking care of the Throngs. So how did he get the money? I really wish they showed what happened after the Throngs took over the world. I guess the ending is supposed to be ambiguous, but I would have loved to see how society operates now that they're enslaved to the Throngs. If you're able to look past these faults, this episode was pretty enjoyable, which is why I'll be putting it in the B tier. Season 7, Episode 5, Eulogy. I really like this episode. I think it shows how important it is to realize that there's more than just your side of the story, and this is something that Philip really needed to come to terms with. Like, imagine if he gave up on the eulogy system after the first 3 pictures. He would have never learned about the guilt that Carol had been harboring after cheating on him, and that she was actually willing to sit down and talk things out with him, leaving Philip thinking for the rest of his days that Carol was this evil, terrible person who humiliated him by rejecting his marriage proposal in a fancy restaurant. But what makes this episode bittersweet is that even though he managed to unblock that part of his memory, allowing him to remember Carol's face again and understand things from her perspective, it was too late, and now she's dead. There wasn't really much that I didn't like about this episode. If I had to mention something, I feel like the sequencing and the timeline of Philip's memories were a little bit difficult to follow along with, but I was able to get that squared away with some plot summaries I found online. I thought the color grading and the choice of music really added a lot to the episode, especially at the end when Philip was finally able to remember Carol's face. The lighting and the music were fine-tuned so well to make this perfect scene. There's not really anything else I can do besides giving this episode an S tier. Season 7, Episode 6, USS Callister Into Infinity. This is the first Black Mirror episode that is a direct sequel to a previous episode. I guess you could say that Plaything is a sequel to Bandersnatch, but unlike USS Callister Into Infinity, Plaything doesn't pick up where Bandersnatch leaves off, so I'd say it doesn't count. With that out of the way, this is how you do a sequel. You would have thought that escaping Robert Daly's prison would make things better for the clones. Turns out things are objectively much worse now, since if they die in the game, they die for real, while all the other players seemingly have infinite lives. I love how much more the clones and the real-life versions of the characters are developed in this episode, and that we're shown how distinct the clones are from their real-life counterparts. In the original, we were mainly focused on Clone Nanette's character development, but in this episode we got so many more layers to Robert Daly and Walton. Such as how Robert has always had a subconscious desire for control even before he started cloning people, and how Walton has been exploiting Robert from the beginning and how he's never had any respect for him, showing that both of them were pretty terrible people all along. I really like how much more connected the real life world and the game world are. It really raised the stakes for the clones since Walton was actively trying to kill the clones, while Nanette was trying to stop Walton from doing that, instead making peace with the clones. Well, how much ever she was able to do until, you know. The only thing that was really bothering me is how the other clones ended up in Nanette's head. I feel like what would have made more sense is if clone Nanette made it out and the others were wiped. But I suppose this ending is okay since it opens the door to potentially another sequel, which I can feel it in my balls that they're gonna make another part to this. While I don't think this episode was as good as the original USS Callister, I still thought it was very enjoyable, and that it blows most other Black Mirror episodes out of the water. Even though I don't think both of these episodes are on the same level, I still want to give USS Callister Into Infinity an S tier. Finally, after 33 episodes, we have finished ranking Black Mirror. I want to thank everyone who stuck it out with me throughout these 3 videos. This is the first time I'm making content like this, so making these 3 videos was not easy. But I really appreciate your guys' support, especially on part 2. After making this series, I've got a pretty good idea of how I want to move forward making these videos. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Also, when I was making this video, Black Mirror got renewed for a season 8. I'm not totally sure when that's coming out or if I'll even be making a tier list on that season, but I'll decide on that as the release date for that season approaches. As for what shows I'll be ranking in the future, you're just gonna have to wait and see. I promise I won't make you guys wait another 4 months for part 1 to come out. But yeah, that's about it. I will see you all in the next video.